And so shout out to Frank if he ever watches this conversation I had with him today on the street, where he brought to my attention why people like, among other reasons, why people like conversing on social media so much, is the written word is a lot easier to curate than having a face-to-face or even a telephone conversation. You can tidy up those loose words and usually work out what you want to say a little bit better. So apart from the fact that you could record this 20 times, who's actually got time for that? Doing this a little bit more might get me to tighten up my speech because I'm certainly much more comfortable writing things down to get messages across than talking, especially talking into a screen where you're staring at yourself the whole time or trying not to. Just following on from the previous video about higher selves and connectivity and extra dimensional activities, for want of a better word, because, words, especially English words, come on, we don't have them for a lot of things. And then you end up using words from other languages and it just sounds wrong or naff or new age or whatever. But along the idea of, that cerebral thing of what is this place? How does it work? Does it matter? Getting yourself together, getting it in order. What are you even here for? Do you even know what you're here for? Are you even worried what you're here for? And that idea, because I've bounced in between, these ideas of, well, this place is a spirit trap for energy harvesting, or it's a simulation. Now, I don't think this place is a simulation exactly, but I think thinking about it as a simulation or treating it as a simulation works very, very, very well. I'm just going to put that out there. I think it's something else. I think there's something else going on, but to imagine that it is a simulation, that covers a lot of bases. So, that this is a simulated reality somehow, which would mean it's a copy of an original somewhere, or maybe a copy of multiple originals all mashed together and used as a school, as a learning place. Well, then why would you get your mind wiped every time you came in here? How does that work? Okay, so maybe it was a school or a learning place and then it got taken over by something not so benevolent, and now it is a soul trap for energy harvesting, or a spirit trap, sorry. Differentiating soul and spirit, because I think soul is, for me, a soul is something underneath a spirit in an expansion level, because you do soul retrievals. Your soul can get fractured. You can go on soul journeys, which means the soul can very much get wrapped up in being part of this game or this simulated reality or whatever, this trap. Whereas a spirit, no one ever talks about spirit retrieval or spirit fracturing, so a spirit is something that can't be fractured then. So that would put it at an expanded level to a soul. That's just my language, how I talk. But trying to work out what this place is, so that you can work out how to navigate yourself in it successfully without just getting played all the time, and treating it as a simulation of some sort works quite well, even if that's not the truth. The mechanics appear that way. They're very video game-ish. But they're the two ends of the pendulum. Is it a nasty soul trap for harvesting energy, or is it this place where your thoughts become reality? And my answer at this point in time, because I've gone through lots of different iterations of this, refining it and refining it and refining it, and looking at old wisdom. We don't know if it's old or if it's wisdom or if it's just planted. Yeah, if this is a simulation, then all of those old books, 10,000-year-old books, 8,000-year-old spiritual texts, are they diversions? You know, like you've got to be taking everything with a grain of salt. But that power of intention, that ability to program the matrix, so to speak, and both of them, like the nature, because there's like a nature matrix, and then there's this overlay of this kind of, archonic is a word to use, but fake, not natural, anti-natural. I mean, a lot of it is anti-natural. It's why we're clear felling forests and doing all that sort of stuff, and pollution, and there's big money in pouring your toxic waste into rivers rather than dealing with it properly. I mean, that's anti-nature. So there's the nature matrix of, I'm just going to live in the middle of the forest, and that's still a matrix of the food growing and the animals interacting with the food, and that's a web of life. That's a matrix. But then there's this overlaid one as well. So you're dealing with two at once. And which one's more real than the other? They're both as real as each other. When you try to deal with them, they are anyway. So then it kind of looks like there perhaps aren't any big evil overlords here who developed a soul trap to trap conscious beings to harvest their energy. And it's maybe not a school or a place to learn, or maybe it's none of that. Maybe it's just a consciousness trap, because that's definitely how this place works. I don't know about getting out of this place, if that's how it works, but when you're in this place, it responds to focused attention and consciousness. The more focus, the more oomph you can put behind that consciousness, the better it responds. And the more you can trick your base programming, the better it responds. That's that book, The Secret, or all the Florence Scovel Shinn, Neville Goddard. That's not nonsense. That stuff, those affirmations, they work a treat. And the more programmed you are, then the better you can program yourself, because you're already running on railway line. You're already on the tracks. So you've just got to switch the tracks over and start putting the post-it notes up around and saying the affirmation. And I mean, all the religious stuff talks about this as well. Yeah. Saying the mantras, saying the affirmations again and again, and the Zen stuff kind of laughs at that and says, you only need to say it once. Once should be enough to get it to work if it's real. You're like, yeah, but it's not about if it's real or not at a more material level where we are at a material is not consciousness, but at the level that we're dealing with, where we think this stuff around us is real because it feels real to us. It's what we perceive it as. You've got to create those new pathways. You've got to trick yourself into believing you're rich, believing you're successful, believing I am successful and I am rich, and that's why I went and bought that really expensive coat, even though I spent nearly all my money on the coat, but it just makes me feel wealthy and successful. And then what do you know? You cut a business deal the next week and the bank account fills up because you are successful, because you believed you were successful. Now, that doesn't work for everyone, because a lot of their beliefs, their not beneficial beliefs about themselves, are welded on a fair bit tighter than that. It takes more than just a few affirmations to break it. But that's how this place is designed to work. And so you don't need a big bad overlord telling people what to do and making rules and building soul traps to chain people up and imprison them. You just need a little whisper in the ear. You're not really good enough. You don't deserve that. Money doesn't grow on trees. Good things come to those who wait. Nothing was ever achieved without hard work. They're all programs told to you by people who are keeping you alive, usually. You're a child, they're the parents, they're the grandparents, they're the adults. Without them, as far as you know, you'd be dead. They're where the water comes from, they're where the food comes from, they're where the shelter comes from, they're where the love and the connection comes from. And so when they whisper those things in your ear, money doesn't grow on trees, well, you believe them. That gets laid down, and the younger they pump it in, the tighter that foundation gets laid down. And they're only doing it because their carers did it to them. And that's part of their foundation, and they are alive and successful enough to procreate and have children of their own. So they're passing on the wisdom that got them to where they are. But what if they're passing on chains to chain you down? You know, the Hindu, the Vedic culture talks a lot about the chains as the three. Three's a very big number for them. I like 3 quite a bit, which is why I gravitate towards certain Hindu teachings. I don't know why. It just is what it is. But the chains, you know, there are the iron chains and the silver chains, and then there are the golden chains. You know, you're very good. You're a very good person. You do good. You don't do anything bad. You don't say a bad word about anyone. You are a good person. Satwig, I think, is the word they use. Golden chains. You are still chained by your behavior because you are very busy being good. And you believe that if you're not good, bad things will happen to you and everyone around you. And you won't get to where you need to get to without being good. That's a trap. And you've got to walk yourself out of these traps. And so that's a step along the path. Now, some people, that's the Zen thing, right? Just that you're just there. You don't walk yourself out. You just jump off the cliff. There you are. You jump off the cliff and you can fly. Amazing. Not many people jump off the cliff, but that's the Hindu idea is walking yourself out. And for them, they talk about lifetime over lifetime. Yes or no. That is a take or leave situation, because you might be able to go back through lifetimes you think you've had, or you might believe all of that's nonsense because you can only verify the lifetime you've got here, and the rest of it is just fantasy, which may or may not be true. And I would just say that's like flat or round earth. That's both and. Because time doesn't actually exist and it's all happening at once. So you are in a lifetime spread across who knows what on this dimension, this level. Then there's more levels up and a couple of levels down, if we can believe what we feel and what we've been shown. But on this level, this time thing is stretched out. But it's all happening at once. So there's no past or future life. It's just life. But you perceive it that way. So yes, you have had past lives, and yes, there is only this life you are in now that is important. It's a both and situation. So you can do work on past lives and heal where you are now for yourself and people around you, then go for it. If every time you go into past lives you get stuck because you were a princess, or you were horribly traumatized, or you were whatever, don't. just work on this life, because I pretty much guarantee you that anything you can find that happened in a past life happened to you in this life to some degree or other, big or small. And if you play around with that enough, you'll find the overlap, where this whole life was you being terribly downtrodden. And here you are in this life, you get terribly downtrodden by someone for a day, a week, a month. But it's the same energy signature. So it's like the many different paths of Buddhism or whatever you want, Eastern religion, that all lead up to the top of the mountain. Like, they're all paths to get you there, but just don't get lost on the path. Don't get stuck standing there smelling the flowers all the time. Like, you're on the path because you're trying to get somewhere. Perhaps that's a trap in itself. That's not a great analogy, but you get what I mean, I hope. These are all means to that ending point. And as long as you can realize that there is never an end and there's only means, then there's some chance that you'll find the end. If you're always saying, well, the end justifies the means, I can do whatever I want as long as I get to the end, there's never an end. You'll never get there. Because that's just how a Klein bottle, a Mobius strip, that's how it works. And that's what we're in. We're in a paradox of a paradox. And there are ways to get out of that, but the only way you can actually get out of it is by, moving sideways when you're meant to move forwards. So, this doesn't have to be a prison planet, doom and gloom, energy harvesting, nasty. It doesn't have to be like that. That is all going on. That can be what it is. But it's mostly going on in your programming, which is why I do what I do, which is why I help people connect, which is why I work with myself as much as anything, and my family, connecting, clearing, and working on that stuff. Because those layers of sediment, those programs, they keep you trapped in a reality that is not reality. It's an illusion reality. And we have no idea what reality actually looks like because we're looking with these most of the time. And how many programmed filters of these things got over them? Because I can shut my eyes and this place can feel very, very different to how it looks sometimes. And sometimes it feels exactly how it looks. So what is it? Is it changing? Am I changing? Who knows? But you can't see through glass that's all crudded up with layers and filters and grime and gunk and programs and beliefs. You've got to clean that stuff off if you're going to have any idea of where you are and any hope of navigating at all. You got to drop that stuff because it just drags you, or don't drop it. Just stop holding it. It's not holding you, I'll guarantee you. This is what I find again and again in this work. These things, these programs, these demons, these beings, these entities, these ghosts, these aliens, in this density that we're in, they're not holding you. You're holding them. And so when people say drop it or just let go, and you're like, I have let go of everything, I'm trying. No, you haven't. You're still holding on to the fact that you're standing on solid ground. You still think that the realm you're in is a certain shape, or that a certain political party is better than another one, or you're holding on to a lot still. You gotta let go and let go and let go and let go. And you'll find that those things, that hot coal that's burning you, you're holding it. As soon as you open your hand, just drops out. And every time I do it, and I find it in me, I kick myself every time, because it's something that's been causing major issues and I was holding it. I held on to it for so long, my body thought it was me. So even when I thought I'd let go of it, the body's like, well, we don't want to let go of that. Like, you're not just going to drop your liver out. You don't just let go of your spleen. We're not going to let go of that. Okay, that's not part of us. Yeah, it is. We've had it forever. That's part of us. And so it's like it's getting the body to let go. You can't just do it up here and go, okay, I've let go of that now. That's great. Your body's still holding it for you, just like your body's still breathing for you. Your body's still regulating your heart movement for you. Like, there's a lot of stuff on autopilot. A lot of stuff on autopilot. And that's where it's at. In this next little while, I don't know. The next year, I can't think days in advance, let alone weeks, months, or years. But these next moments, where it's at is turning off the autopilot and just seeing which way the vehicle goes. And like switching off all the autopilots that you can find. And then just try to keep flying. Because it's going to bring a lot of stuff up. But the more you can bring up and let go consciously, the less is going to have to get ripped out of your hands when the moment comes. And that's the only reason we're doing this. Anyone who is drawn to, like, I don't know what comes after that. None of this is to do with that. It's not about being more successful. It's not about life being better. It's about, at some point, there's going to be probably not even a fork in the road. There's just going to be like a gate or a frequency fence. And for you to move past that point, all of that stuff has to go. And if you can't drop it off, you might get looped back around again until you can drop it off. Or there might not be anything to loop you back around into, so it just might have to get ripped out of you. And if you're still in the belief system that that stuff is you, it's going to feel like someone's ripping you apart. And they're not. They're just pulling off all these false structures and beliefs that are not you and never were. But it's not going to feel very nice. And it's not going to be very nice. And like a savage detox, you might not make it out the other side. I mean, there's a reality. Some people detox so hard they die. We call it the flu. Pneumonia. People who die in hospital or at home with the flu, older people, they end up dying of pneumonia. Flu and pneumonia deaths. They're mostly pneumonia deaths. And what that is that's your body trying to clear toxins. And the biggest toxin clearing organ after your skin is your lungs. And if they can't clear it out of the skin, your body will try to clear it through the lungs. And if you're sedentary and in bed, semi-reclined, and you're not moving around, you can't drain the fluid with the mucus and the toxins out of your lungs that your lungs are trying to clear out of your body, and you drown. That's pneumonia. You drown in the fluid that's trying to remove the toxins from your body. So, I mean, there we are. How many people a year die from a detox? Because that's what a flu/pneumonia death is. So the tip is keep on clearing. and I'm probably saying this to me more than I'm saying it to you, is the last few months have been hectic. Like I said, I haven't been on here for 3 months. It's been wild every day. But here we are now. There's been an astral tipping point, an astrological tipping point. We're past some sort of an apex in the cycle of whatever goes on out there electromagnetically. We've clicked into that new space. It's time to jump back in the saddle and get back to it, because we've got stuff to clear. And the more we can clear ourselves before whatever's coming down the pipe actually gets to us, the more use we're going to be to ourselves and those around us. That's the only reason here. All right. Much love.